Hello. Hi. Yes. Okay. I was like, I don't remember if I copied over the right stream key or not, but I see that my screen just changed, so I did. How's everyone doing on this lovely 1010 today? Oh, there's that Eight of Swords. I just talked about the Eight of Swords. So I'm gonna be doing this like one card thing, somewhere to start, and we'll just see where it goes. I was gonna take a break from over here, but there's the world with that Eight of Swords stuff. But I'll come on and I'll do this because I do know it's like I'm kind of sort of doing a lot right now, but also I'm the type of person that I function I function better under pressure than I do when I'm not under pressure, because if I'm not under pressure, I procrastinate more and I get lazy. When I'm under pressure, I actually do things, right? So, and I just feel like, it is kind of sort of for me to continue doing something over here. Don't know if it's, helpful or resonant or not, but it's not my job to know. Right? I just do whatever I feel led to do. So let's get into this. One card, please. I'm only taking, two cards after. Oh, thank you. I ain't even got to say the whole thing. It just came out. Oh my gosh. Well, bottom of the deck is the devil. So let's get into this Capricorn. Let's get into this Capricorn. Capricorn is an energy of foundation. Maybe the foundation in the past wasn't that great. Maybe we kind of sort of distract ourselves from handling and addressing those sort of infractions, I think is the word that I said I wanted, in our foundation. Those things that aren't necessarily up to code, that need to be replaced, that need to be renovated, that just need to be removed. And if we're not really handling that, oh goodness, well, I guess I'll talk about it. I feel like there are a lot of ways for us to not really handle what's going on at the root level for us. Some of those ways is like substances, or like shopping, eating, not eating. But some of those things can also be, like energy work, binaural beats, chakra cleansing meditations. It's like those things can be supplementary to the work, but they're not a substitute for it, right? It's like, oh, I've been listening to this chakra, this heart chakra, this crown chakra, this third eye chakra, this throat chakra, this root chakra, this sacral chakra, this solar plexus chakra. Meditation music, and it really helps me. I went to this Reiki practitioner, and they really helped me. And like, a week later, 2 weeks later, a few days later, a few hours later, we're feeling blocked again. And it's like, well, if you don't handle the root cause, if you don't handle what's causing this sort of disturbance in your energetic system, it's going to continue to happen. And then we got the World card. Now, the World card I love with this devil energy, because that means that, oh, it's the Eight of Swords again. Should I be surprised? Bless you. Should I be surprised because it keep coming out? I was like, maybe it's the Queen of Swords. See, and that's what I was talking about, right? When we sort of overly rely on these other things to be substitutes for the work that we know we need to do, we get rocked by stuff like Pluto, Saturn, Jupiter, Mercury, Mars, whatever. We get rocked by all of it, by these tower moments and these dark nights that are related to dark nights that we've already had, that just continue to get darker and darker because we never actually face what lies under these dark nights. We just spiritually or physically band-aid them. And I talked about this on my other channel literally just now. And so I guess I'll just give the abbreviated version of, like, if we have an infection in the body, painkillers and band-aids don't actually help, because the infection continues to spread. If you take painkillers, maybe you don't feel the pain of the infection spreading, but just because you don't feel the pain of it does not mean that the infection is still spreading. And tower moments happen to expose those parts of our foundation that are rotted and that need to be addressed and taken care of. But again, if we do this sort of like bypassing, either spiritually, energetically, or physically, it doesn't actually address what needs to be addressed. And one of the big reasons, I believe, one of the reasons why everything is so exaggerated right now is because it is so important for us to take care of and address the things that have been left unresolved before we move into this new space, right? She's looking completely away from this devil. And this creature. Oh, and look! The Page of Pentacles is right behind it. The Page of Pentacles, the world, and the creature trapped in the swords, they're all looking in the same direction, right? They're all looking like the world card is looking in this direction, the devil is looking at you, the animal is looking in, well, technically the animal is looking at the devil, but the animal is actually looking in the same direction as the world card. But this animal doesn't feel that it can break free of this devil influence, right? And it's interesting because in the Chinese zodiac, right, it's either the ram or the goat. And I was going to say, like, is the ram a sheep or a goat? Is the ram a bighorn sheep or is the ram a billy goat? It's kind of sort of like we kind of sort of have the same word for both, right? Maybe we don't. But as far as I know, a ram could be either a sheep or a goat. Now, when we look at a sheep and a goat, we can tell the difference. But like when we're talking about ram energy, both Aries and Capricorn are cardinal. So maybe there is this space of like, and I guess that makes sense, right? Because Aries being cardinal fire is how we sort of act out on our desire. That's why it's the home of Mars. And if we take that approach of the ram, that's why it makes sense that Mars is exalted in Capricorn. Because both of them could be considered to be rams. You have these bighorn goats, you have these bighorn sheep, and they both ramming into each other head first. But with that Eight of Swords, it's like that's us. It's almost this autopilot type of feeling because we're going along with the program even when we don't like it. And so that internal suffering is there. The Eight of Swords is very much there, but we just keep going along with the program. Right? It's like I hate the job I work at. Work, home, phone, sleep. Work, home, phone, sleep. Work, home, phone, sleep. Work, home, phone, sleep. And we're stuck in these cycles because we think we have to be, or because we just don't have whatever's within us to break them. And then this is about breaking the cycle and look beyond everything beyond what this double South Node world had to offer us. And we're seeing the sort of, I guess maybe that's how that works then. Because I was just talking about how it feels like a lot of us are trying to do these North Node Cancer things in the time of North Node Gemini. But maybe when the node is in that space, it's the accumulation of that energy before it's dispensed, right? It's like, and the nodes are associated with the moon, so it makes sense. It's like when we manifest on a new moon, it fills up with light and then it pours out what we were manifesting on the full moon, right? And that's how that works. I'm pretty sure that's how that works. I don't actually do it myself, but I think that's how it works. And then when it's also pouring out your manifestations on the full moon, you also use that to release things that you want to pour out and purge from yourself, right? Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's how it works. Sometimes I get it confused and I say it the opposite way, but I'm pretty sure that's how it works. And maybe the same is like with the nodes. It's like during that 18-month period, the node or the moon is filling with the energy of what we should be doing, and then it dispenses out. And as that's pouring out, the moon is filling. So like the moon is pouring out that North Node Cancer energy and filling up that North Node Gemini energy. And then it'll pour out this North Node Gemini energy when the node shifts into North Node Taurus, South Node Scorpio. Potentially. I don't like I've been in this space personally, like when the North Node is in a certain sign, it's just the energy that I'm in. And that was kind of sort of happening before I even got into spirituality, because I just discovered what the nodes really this year. Like I had some like access to them before, but I never really thought of the nodes on a more collective level until the North Node shifted into Gemini, and then like everything started going down, and it's like, why is it now that people are trying to do these Cancerian retreat within yourself, find your happy place, do this, do that, find what makes you happy. And it's like, girl, like North Node Cancer was, we had a whole 18 months to already know where our happy place is, to already have that solid foundation within ourselves, to already have that connection with spirit. And now the North Node is in Gemini. It's time for us to be doing some action in our local environments and communities. Because when enough people show up in the local, it creates these global ripple effects, right? Because it's rippling all over the world. That's how that happens. But maybe that's not necessarily the case. And again, we all take it in the time that we take it in. Um, but the reason why I brought that up is because now we're in this space of walking away from Capricorn, and the South Node was in Capricorn from November 2018 to May 2020. And we saw the initial rumblings of that South Node Capricorn fall in like March, April, particularly over here in the US, when people were like, oh, it's unconstitutional for you to tell me that I can't go out there and take my life into my own hands and take other people's life into my own hands, because it's my right to do whatever I want to do with my life and to influence and impact the lives of others around me, regardless of if I care about them or not. And honestly, if I cared, maybe I would just be a little less selfish. Anyway, it ain't necessarily about that. But, well, because then the North Node shifted into Gemini, right? And that is an interesting sort of thing, because like now that the North Node is in Gemini, if our hearts were more open with that North Node in Cancer, if we were more connected with that cardinal water energy, then you'd think that North Node and Gemini would make it a little bit easier to make the choice that benefits the local collective rather than just like the individual self. But hey, anyway, who am I to whatever? Again, the only reason why I bring it up is because now the world is shifting out of that South Node Capricorn. And so that's why I was like, oh, well, maybe it's like this 18-month buildup. And then once the energy has reached that 18 months and once it's shifted, that's when it's free to sort of roam about the cabin, right? And I was like, oh, well, it does kind of sort of make sense in that way, especially on the collective means. And, since everything is timely, since we do everything in our own time, then it's like, if you're sort of like more, I don't want to say in tune with, if you're more influenced by those subtle forces, and you're more likely, gentle force, subtle influence, oh my gosh, gentle wind, subtle influence, that literally just came out in the I Ching. That's Shao Chu energy. Anyway, um, and I was already feeling the gentle force before anyway. I do feel that it's time for the heat to die down a little bit, because it's like boiling rice, right? You start the boil, but once it boils, you reduce it to a simmer. It's boiling rice over here. Earlier, it was about stirring something into motion, and the force that you exert to get an object to switch from the stationary position into the mobile position is not the force that you have to exert to keep that object mobile, right? It's inertia. Things in motion want to stay in motion. Things at rest want to stay at rest. So initially, you have to overcome the rest energy to put it in motion, but once it's in motion, it wants to stay in motion, right? And it was about the ice rink. If you just fly out onto the ice rink, you're gonna keep flying, because there's less friction to reduce your momentum. And like, we're already lubricating this, like the space of collective desire has already lubricated this change, and basically we don't want to overshoot it. And that's a bunch of stuff that isn't necessarily related to this in and of itself. I feel like it's about the completion of old cycles within ourselves, and it's about us actually completing them and not leaving things untied, or it's about tying up loose ends, right? And if those loose ends aren't tied up, then it's just things for devil energy to grab onto and to unravel as we continue to move, right? If devil energy is holding on to a thread from your sweater and you keep moving, it's gonna unravel your sweater, and then your top is gonna be exposed, girl. Um, Maybe you decided to go braless that day because you couldn't with the bra that day because it was too hot, or you didn't have time, or you just didn't want to feel restricted or whatever. But little did you know you had a loose thread in that sweater, and someone thought it'd be real funny to expose you in that way. You didn't know that they were hanging onto the thread. You kept walking, and she just unraveled in front of everybody, and now you're feeling some type of way. But hey, you may decide, you know what? This body is natural, and I'm not ashamed. Now I will go back and get me another shirt because I know I can't just be out here topless. But if it happened on accident, girl, it was an accident. It was not intentional. I'm not gonna feel ashamed. You can do whatever. And then you know what? You may inspire other people to just start throwing their tops off because you're like, you know what? You're right. This is natural. It's not natural for us to be clothed. That's not necessarily the direction I saw this going in. But anyway. And then the whole paradigm shifts, right? The whole game changes because of that. And so maybe it's about being comfortable with those vulnerabilities at the same time, and to not shield and protect and harden these things. It's about letting it go and going out into the world bare, right? You're born naked, you live naked. It's a naked, natural world out there. Yeah, so it is about releasing all of that extra stuff. And it is kind of sort of about not necessarily being so overly focused on the things that have already been set in motion. Because we do need to, and this is for me, really, after being so collectively focused basically from June to August, um, it's about building our own worlds and not neglecting the very real things that are going on, not turning a blind eye to it, but also, building things outside of it as well. Because when we hold that space and build that space again in our own local environment, and if we make sure that what we're doing is up to par, and if we, in those moments where we feel so called to stand up or to correct something in our own, like right in front of us, and if we continue to do that, then again, like it creates these ripple effects that it's like when the whole world is rippling that way, it changes things. Those ripples are the shifts in the frequency and vibration. And it makes room and space for these higher frequencies to come in and to ground themselves, because they can't ground themselves in this foundation that old Capricorn devil energy has created for itself, right? America somehow seemingly being the shiny example of a country in the world, even though, we got our shadow just like everybody got their shadow. But America's Pluto is in Capricorn. America is actually like 2 degrees. Well, once Pluto exits its post shadow, America will be like 2 degrees from a Pluto return. That's huge, right? But it's like if a Saturn return does what it does in our own personal lives, imagine what a Pluto return will do for a country. And I myself discovered that, or I was led to discover that because I saw a tweet on Twitter. Somebody was like, the average age of an empire is 250 years. Why is that? And then astrology Twitter was like, well, 250 years is about a Pluto return. I was like, oh, snap. Well, if the Declaration of Independence was signed in 1777, then 2027 would be 250 years. And then I went to go look at the astrological chart for the signing of the Declaration of Independence. I saw like 27 degrees Capricorn. I was like, oh, so it's actually going to be before 2027. We're in the space of a Pluto return right now. And Pluto just went retrograde, or Pluto just went direct. And some people are filling that space of Pluto going direct after it's been retrograde in your own personal life, and the deep level of transformation that it calls for in your own personal life. Now imagine that for an entire nation. Now imagine that for the nation that the world just seemingly somehow for some reason made its sort of guiding light. That the developed world and those seeking entry into the developed world sort of look at as their guideposts or as their shiny example. Your shiny example is going through its Pluto return right now. So I don't know. It's a lot of stuff shifting. It's a lot of stuff moving, and it's important to continue moving forward, free of everything that we were sort of bound by before. And I do love this because she is naked, but there is still a sense of modesty here. And she's crossed the finish line. That's this purple ribbon. Purple is the color associated with the crown chakra, right? She got this big old green thing on her torso, which to me is an expanded heart because it's not just a space of, the heart, it's like her whole torso. We also have these leaves down here, some of them yellow. We got this butterfly down here, some stars. It's giving me very much autumn energy. And we just had the autumn equinox, the autumnal equinox, when we shifted into Libra season, right? A few weeks ago now. There's butterflies here symbolizing change. There's a purple ribbon, purple being the color of the crown of spirituality. Because this is wrapped around her, she's crossed the finish line. And now she is bare, but her modesty is maintained by that ribbon of spirit and that expanded heart. In the space of change, in the space of the autumn, as we see by the different colored leaves and the butterflies. It's like the completion of this era, the completion of that age. And since we've gone through it, we can come into this new space with an expanded heart, because if the world was always sunshine and rainbows, right, we wouldn't necessarily. It reminds me of like those movies. I think one of them might be, oh, what is it? It's not Heathers. It's not Footloose. Oh, goodness. There was this one movie. It wasn't either one of those movies or even close to those movies. But more recently, there was this movie. It reminds me, I think there was an older movie at the same time. I never watched it. I think the dude from Ferris Bueller was in it, but again, I never watched it. But it's this world where no one lies, everyone tells the truth, and then the first person, whoever lies, comes onto the scene, right? It's kind of sort of that energy of like, if everything were always good, we wouldn't really have. It wouldn't have been a space that we've matured into. It wouldn't be a conscious choice for us to be good. Excuse me. And since we are a planet of free will and free choice, and since we are also a planet of growth and evolution and change and seasons, it's more impactful when we're making those choices from like an educated space rather than like, oh, that's how everything is, so that's just how we do it. Right? And we become more powerful in that sense as well when we choose to continue to move forward in that way. When we choose the way that is more compassion based, it puts us in the space of really holding the frequency of compassion, right? Because if you're just raised that way, it doesn't really hold the same effect, because it is what it is, right? Just like how we can be sort of desensitized to some of the stuff that happens in the world because it is what it is. But imagine like the first lie, right? The first time someone had ever been lied to, and then everyone else was like, what do you mean? Like, what, like, we don't even have an ability to comprehend what that would even be, because like lies just don't exist. Like everything is what it is on the surface. Like, what do you mean something could be different? Like, and then, more and more and more people start lying, and then at first it's this culture shock that sweeps the whatever, but then eventually it becomes something that we're used to. Now imagine when the truth comes back and the initial shock that that's going to create, and then how we just sort of adapt and begin to expect more and more of the truth because we're getting the truth. And we're kind of sort of in this space now where lies don't really propagate like they used to because of everything that happened. Because we were in this space of beginning to question our governments and things like that. Now, there are certain lies that we can kind of sort of choose to willingly accept, right? Of how things work for certain individuals but not for other individuals, and we know that something is right for some and wrong for others, but we can't yet reconcile why that is. We recognize that there's some discrepancy there, but we're coming to this space of really sort of questioning it and not just accepting it because that's what we did in the past. Some of us, we have a different experience in this time, and it's this melding of experiences that'll get us to where we want to be, because right now it really is a space of tempered strength and that tempered change of not overshooting, about really coming into this balance. And when we're coming into a balance, there is a certain amount of blame that we have to release, honestly. And that's the space of, like, instead of getting even, like, we're not trying to get even, we're not necessarily trying to completely reverse everything, we're trying to come into a balance, and it requires strength on both sides. One side may have to give up privileges and ease of access that it had. Another side is going to have to give up the need or the desire to, like, retaliate, right? In order for harmony to exist, we both got to come to the negotiating table. We all got to come to the negotiating table in so many ways, but I mean, I don't know what this is necessarily about in your own personal life. Again, I think it's about really coming into this space of crossing the finish line by no longer sort of like deflecting the responsibility to heal those things within you onto other things, be they substances, physical or spiritual. Eventually you're going to have to look at the root issue. And when you do look at the root issue, again, it puts you in the space of being able to release those burdens from you. It reminds me of someone in a tub, like the girl in the tub. I think she was drunk. And they were like, "Why are you fully clothed in the tub?" She's like, "I'm washing myself and my clothes." And it's like, girl, we put the clothes in the washer, we step into the shower naked. Now, is that old devil energy paradigm about how we wash clothes? Maybe. Maybe we just lather up in soap and detergent and we wash our bodies and our clothes at the same time. But if you wearing the clothes, then how your skin gonna get clean? There's temperance in the lovers. It'll put us in a position to really be able to come into a space of more unconditional and more true love. And then look, the lovers in the Hierophant. Then we get to begin building establishments and creating structures and creating organization from this space of love and from the space of compassion and collaboration, instead of from the space of competition, I'm right, you're wrong, whatever. And that's what's going to really turn that wheel. When we change the foundation, the positive side of that foundation for the collective. The negative, shadowy side of that foundation is double energy. The higher side of it is Hierophant energy. And then we have that Five of Cups with the Wheel of Fortune, where they'll all begin to turn upright. And that'll lead us to the Six of Cups, where they are all upright. And then we have that Syrian energy in the space of a dolphin, that lighthearted energy. We have that Zen, we have that calm. That is the result of that inner child healing. That is the result of the release of all of those traumas and stuff from the past. So, final message here today as I put these cards away. Oh, it's right there. Who it is? Six of Wands. I love it. Bottom of the deck. Three of Cups. I love it even more. The Three of Cups is a card of community. It's a card of celebration. It's a card of not necessarily reconciling differences, but just accepting the fact that there are differences, but that our differences don't have to cause difference. Our differences don't have to cause discordance between us, right? That not everything has to be the same in order for it to come to the table, right? One of my personal pet peeves is when people are like, we have more in common than we do differences. We're all the same. Let's celebrate our similarity. It's like, no, I don't have to be you to be valid, to be loved, to have value. You don't have to be me to be valid, to be loved, to have value. And neither one of us have to be the other person that's coming to the table where we all raise our cups and we celebrate whatever. Why do we all have to be homogenized to be valid? Like, I feel like that honestly does more harm than it does good, because now you got to find all the similarities you have with me. Then you got to find all the similarities you got with your other neighbor. Then you got to find all the similarities you got with the one across the street. Then you got to find all those similarities with the one down the street. And that's just our block. And the block literally like right next to us. What about the rest of the world? Are we going to similarity ourselves until we've handled every single instance and potential for difference? Girl, no. People are people, and because they are people, they deserve respect. It ain't because they like you. It ain't because they like me. It's because they are a person. They're an individual with a brain, a heart, and a consciousness that they deserve respect. People really ready to give animals more respect who ain't got nothing in common with you. But then look at the person next door and be like, oh, yeah, ew, no. Like, you're too different. Like, oh, we're more the same, but animals can just be alive and they get all kinds of respect. I gotta be like you to get some respect? Hello? I'm sorry, but that just it gets me hot because it's like in my mind like that don't make sense. Why do I have to be like you in order for you to love and respect me? Or not even love me, just to accept the fact that like, hey, maybe I deserve some rights too. Like why I gotta be like you and why are you the standard? People talk about people playing God. Why are you the standard for what deserves love, respect, or a seat at the table? Who put you in that position? Hello, excuse me? Just be. I ain't gonna get into it. I ain't even gotta go all the way there. Because this is about us all coming together at the table, finally. Focusing more on us being at the table together, finally, than how we ended up with 15 different cliques in the lunchroom cafeteria in the first place. Now, finding a space where your differences are accepted and you can build on them and find this community, yes, girl, like 100%, like down with that. But we should also be able to come together and respect that we have differences and that those differences don't make our voices any less whatever, right? But again, before we get to that point, we kind of sort of got to give everybody the mic. We kind of sort of got to pass the mic around before we're like, okay, right? Like this group or that group and the other group can't be the only ones like, hey, this is my opinion, and then someone is like, hey, this is where I'm standing, and then you try to form this consensus for everybody. Like, let's give everybody a turn at the mic before we decide that discussions and negotiations are over. Anyway, Three of Cups is community. Six of Wands is the fact that we'll get there. Wings of Mercury. Mercury is the planet of communication. Mercury literally goes between all of the gods, and because that's Mercury's job to be the messenger of all the gods, Mercury has to have a working relationship with all of those gods, right? Because as the messenger of the gods, it's like that in between person. Like if you mad at somebody and you sitting in the right seat, and you ain't talking to the person sitting in the left seat, and the person in the left seat is mad at you and they ain't talking to you, the person in the middle got to be able to talk to both of y'all to be that person in the middle, right? But now we all have to be the people in the middle. Anyway, that's where we're moving as a collective. The Six of Wands came out to clarify that it is happening. It is happening. It will happen on this earth, or at least on the version of earth that I'm aligning myself to. On y'all version of earth, y'all can have whatever y'all want to have. But that's what I got today. I don't know what this is. I don't know what that was. It was what it was. It is what it is. And I'll catch y'all later. I hope you're having a good whatever whenever you see this. I hope you're acting in alignment to make it the best possible thing that it could be. Emphasis on acting. Emphasis on alignment, as always. And I'll catch y'all whenever I catch y'all next. Bye.